Hello, and welcome everybody to Unscripted Intelligence, a podcast where we talk about human intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they intersect, and how they impact everything from education to the workforce.
On this podcast, we interview innovators, change makers, and thought leaders who are shaking things up and making waves. These conversations are unfiltered and uncharted as we make space for what isn't being discussed. And these conversations are always
unavoidable.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Ament, the co-president of the Human Intelligence Movement and chief academic officer for ProSolve. The Human Intelligence Movement is a grassroots community dedicated to ensuring that all humans have the uniquely human intelligences they need to succeed and thrive in our AI world. It's great to be here with everyone.
My name is Arvin Ross, the co-founder of ProSolve, a company that is dedicated to building the human skills that students need in an AI-driven world. I'm also your adaptability enthusiast. I'm super stoked to be here and to be hosting this podcast. Thank you guys for joining these live conversations. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Yo, what is up, Michelle? How are you?
So great to see you, Arvin, and be on this week's Unscripted Intelligence. How have you been?
Same. I have been good. I've been great. Life is moving. I've been digging into a lot of new AI stuff, which we can't talk about we won't talk about on this podcast. We might, who knows? But at some point, I want to share with you some of the things I've been learning with chat and some of the other AI things out there. But another conversation for another day. I'm excited for what we're talking about today and who we have on. For all of you guys who are watching, if you're just hopping in here, feel free to hop into the chat and announce yourself, say who you are, what you do, where you're viewing from, so we can kind of get a pulse on all of you, and we can match a face to a name or a name to an icon at some point throughout the podcast.
Yeah, well, and we want people to really feel like they're part of this conversation and this community, because tonight we have a really, really hot topic. We're going to be talking about redesigning and rebuilding EdTech. And we have two amazing guests with us tonight for a conversation. But Arvin, you and I also have had a long history in the field of EdTech. You know, as an educator, my first leadership role was the director of technology and learning. And I was all about one-to-one initiative, choosing apps and software that really build learning. And so, you know, this is something that is really that's really key to me. And you started your entire career in the EdTech space.
Yeah, it's funny you opened up with that, because I was literally about to say the exact same thing. I kind of stumbled into EdTech before I even knew what the phrase was, before I even knew what the industry was. We were 17, 18, kind of when we started ProSolve in its different form of iSchool initiative, and just had no concept of what I'm doing, of what I would be doing now. And so all I've known is EdTech. I've had the privilege of working with several tech leaders from the education sector, and then other entrepreneurs in the EdTech space. And so my experience, my world, my lived work experience is all just been EdTech. And so, you know, I'm excited for this conversation. I feel like I have I'm going to try not to be as negative today. And try to be positive, but I do feel like there's a lot of things that can change in EdTech, and so I'm excited to unpack this, what can be rebuilt and what can be redesigned in today's episode.
Well, remember, you're supposed to get unscripted and unavoidable. So if that means some negativity, that is what it is. I think the big question that we want to explore is really around how the tools that we are investing in, and investing in so much more now with AI, are they really things that are helping us learn and evolve as humans? Or are they kind of creating some barriers and some roadblocks to hold us back for what makes us uniquely human. And so I think this conversation is going to be really, I don't know, unavoidable.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Really quick, I just want to shout out. I saw someone named Jennifer Peters. You just posted that you are from Cumming, Georgia. I am in Kennesaw, Georgia, so we are not too far from each other. I don't know how you found this podcast, but welcome, welcome, welcome. We are family. We are literally, I think, 40 minutes away from each other. So thank you so much for hopping in. Everybody else is great too, but
some love to that Georgia. You know, it's always your home state, right? Yeah. But I hear you. If someone from Minnesota joined, I would be like over the moon. We got some folks from Texas, from California, a couple from South California. London, Ontario. So that is Canada, Ontario. Like I was a little mystified. I need geography, like London, Ontario. Then I'm talking about anyway. So
I love it.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, well, enough about all of this. Should we get this party started?
Yes. You want to introduce our two guests today?
Yes, I am super excited for these two women superstars in the area of EdTech and human intelligence, because first of all, we are sitting along someone who has spent their entire career proving that innovation and human and heart are not opposites. Dr. Kecia Ray has been leading transformational change across the K-18, K-12, and higher ed, from classrooms to national tables, bringing policy, strategy, and innovation to the space. Kecia is known for turning bold ideas into system level impact. But here's something I know about Kecia, is that she is passionate about people and serving students and shaping the future of education. I would call her a strategist, a disruptor, and a lifelong champion for helping students. So welcome, Dr. Kecia Ray.
Thank you. I'm also a Georgian.
Hey.
So
another Georgian in the house.
Welcome, fam. Fam.
But my brother lives in Cumming, so I'm like, oh my gosh, yes.
That is crazy. What a crazy coincidence. Love it. Love it.
Yes, I'm super happy to be here. Very happy to be involved in this movement too.
Yeah.
Great to have you. Next, we have another executive board member of the human intelligence movement, Dr. Shannon Terry, and she has been pushing the edge of educational innovation for decades. She brings over 30 years of experience leading complex change at local level, state level, national level, corporate level. And what Shannon is really passionate about is how EdTech and technology can support human development. And she's not just talking about AI education and AI literacy. Shannon is here to really rethink what it means to be, what education means in an intelligence age. And so we are just honored to be a whole human intelligence team today. All of us are part of the movement, as is lots of people I'm seeing in the chat. And Shannon and Kecia are both board members and have been alongside me building this movement since day one. And I attribute our success to their wisdom and their insights. So they are my HI ladies, right? So
welcome. Super stoked to have you guys. But before we move on, is there anything that we missed in your intro? Is there anything else you guys want to toss out there for the listeners and the watchers to know about you?
I just want them to know I'm bringing the Texas twang to counterbalance the Georgia swag that's in the space. That's all.
I love that you said Georgia swag, because that is a real thing. We can bottle it. We can sell it if you're interested.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
I love it. So let's kind of hop in today. You guys know we are in this series of rebuilding and redesigning. And every week or every couple of weeks, we're talking about something else that needs to be rebuilt or redesigned specifically for this intelligence age. Today, we're talking about EdTech specifically. And so that's what we're going to center the conversation around. And just a reminder for all of you who are viewing and watching, you're a part of this conversation too. It's not just the four of us that you see on screen. It is all of you from Texas, from Georgia, from Toronto, from San Francisco. All of you, please hop into this conversation. So first things first, I want to toss out a little hot take because this was kind of sent to us, and I want to get your take on it before we start tossing out some questions. And here's the statement. EdTech was built for control, not for human intelligence. What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is that accurate? Can you give us any sort of context or perspective on that? Anyone listening and watching?
I'm going to jump in, Arvin. I was ready for that question because that's what we see trending in the conversation, right? And that element of control is always one that is widely debated. And I would say that historically, while it inches or bumps up against control, we're still in a factory model of school, right? For sure. And so therefore, the ed tech within the school tends to mirror and perpetuate that. If you think about it, it's like a mechanical metaphor. So we're very in tune to efficiency, compliance, standardization. How do we manage instruction? How do we measure performance? Let's move some data here, over there. And all of that suggests a linear approach that does, again, bounce up against control. So I would contend just out of the gate that oftentimes EdTech has fallen into that category of controlling variables, pushing perhaps the learner or the educator to certain content, to certain patterns of behavior. And there's a purpose in that, and it served a purpose. But my vote, until I hear other perspectives, is it was designed for control.
Love it. Love it. Dr. Kecia, do you want to hop in?
I know. I was kind of like, I remember being in DeKalb County, Georgia, for the Georgians here, where I started I started my career in Memphis City and then moved to DeKalb County. And I remember being asked to lead a writing to read lab. Now, many of you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, and that's okay. But the reason that we did that is because we were having a challenge with writing. This is the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. That's how old I am. And we were having a challenge with writing even then. And a software developer had created this software that was going to help our kids do better in their writing, in building their writing abilities. And there was, I think, over time, it has evolved. Things happened to require control, and it morphed, and it made me sad when that happened. I see a little bit of resistance to that now, and we can talk about that later. But the original intent of EdTech was not to control. The original intent of EdTech was to offer a teacher the opportunity to have a tool that could help her perform her duties better for instruction. That was the original intent.
Okay, I got to hop in here. So you took the words out of my mouth. Again, my experience coming from our EdTech company, we started when we were kind of high school, straight into college students. And I would say, I agree with you 100%. When we were teaching about the iPad or the iPod Touch that had just come out, it was all about empowering students to take education into their own hands. There was not a control element at all. I'm talking 2010, 11ish. And so our whole shtick was we were students teaching teachers and students teaching students how to use technology, how to use EdTech to empower their learning, how to give them more agency. We didn't even know the word agency. I mean, we were literal like toddlers, right? Just like teaching and doing all these things. And there was never an element of control. But I agree with you, Dr. Kecia. I have seen over the years, even in our company, what schools and districts have almost asked us for is not so much tools, technology, teaching, or thought leadership that empowers students and teachers as much as gives them a layer of control or the ability to forecast and the ability to get an insight into what's actually happening in the classroom.
I would go back to, it kind of goes full circle to what Shannon said as I listened to all of your perspectives, is that I don't think the EdTech industry is building to say we want to control kids and we want to control. It's because they're responding to what the field is put in place. I think Alan said it really well when he said EdTech is a system, and like most systems, it's built on rules and respond and react versus being proactive. And that's exactly what EdTech has done, is that as our system, our education system, has gotten more standardized, more accountability measures, it has responded. The market has responded to what the industry or the field needs. Now, Arvin, if the education industry was like, we want to empower kids, we want to give them agency, we want the data to really be about exactly who they are and their human skills, then EdTech, the market, would respond to that. And so I think the control is less about EdTech and more about the compliance, the control, the industrial age model of education. And that's maybe the core of what's our redesign and rebuild series for sure.
And a little bit of fear.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in. No, I'm going to jump in. Kecia, Texas.
You jump in, and then I'm going to.
But Texas is bigger than Georgia, so that's going to be the deal for this evening, anyway. For the moment, a thought occurred to me that I think is important to bring to the space is control. Oftentimes, and I think I mentioned it, I'm not sure now in retrospect, but control can be approached from a negative lens or a positive lens, and I don't think anyone in this space would argue that to control certain variables towards excellence is something we could all get behind, or could we? I'm not sure, but I think it's really important to look at control from 360-degree angle, as opposed to perhaps a stigmatized control of top down or other metaphors of that nature. Mm-hmm. Okay, Georgia.
Good point.
Well, I think I do not disagree with you at all, but I think that the elements of control came in with fear. And it was when we started having, again, old, and when we had closed networks and we didn't have the internet and we didn't have access to, clouds, then it wasn't as much, we didn't talk about it that much. But when we started moving to cloud computing and data being stored offsite and managed somewhere else, then another layer came into the conversation. And there is an element of fear there because we've seen that data be taken advantage of and stolen and, all the things. I mean, a child under 18, their social security number goes for millions on the dark web. So, yeah, I mean, it's a commodity. So that is what, I have a whole keynote on that, rather. Just stay tuned. But you see things happening. We reacted because of the fear of hurting a child or hurting a district or hurting a school. And so that control came about as a result of that. And then it kind of got out of control.
Well,
in my opinion,
that reminds me a lot of last week when Arvin and I were talking with Travis around why is there such a lack of risk taking in education and in educational leadership, and why are administrators afraid to fail, and with that comes kind of lack of innovation. And I'm connecting the dots there, Kecia, because I think some of that is all based out of fear. Like, no one wants to take a risk that isn't going to create really solid learning for children, or, like you said, put someone in harm's way. And so I think then we continue to build safety precautions and measures around ourselves without necessarily realizing that we're putting up barriers that could potentially contribute to greater success. There's a couple of folks chiming in I want to just highlight, Jennifer talked about, she agrees with the linear approach, but also sees, but she also thinks it was built to offload some of the content teachers had to produce because of all the standardized tests. And so that kind of goes back to what we talked about. And I want to come back to this whole myth of personalization with that standardization, because I think there's something to like uncover there. But first I want to there's Jen also talks about where data lives is a big deal, that there are some amazing US tools that she can't use in Ontario because of some privacy laws. And I think Kecia, you're really dialing into that need to make sure that we're all protected from the end user, whether it is the student, the teacher, the district, and so on. So do we want to, Arvin, do we want to go talk more about data, or do we want to dig into personalization? And what is that a myth? Because you know where I want to go, because it's like every EdTech tool talks about how it personalizes for learners, and I would love to hear about that. We're seeing a couple more things come in about accountability measures. Hey, Gilliam, it's great to see you here.
I want to jump in too, Arvin, while you're transitioning us really quickly. If we think about, I must be in dictionary mode tonight. I don't know, because I keep wanting to go back to the definition of control, which is, what is the opposite of control? There could be lots of responses, but I'm going to suggest autonomy, right? And one of the things I think we're passionate about in the human intelligence movement is, how do we reclaim human autonomy in the age of artificial intelligence? How do we raise a generation to lead the technology and not be led by it? And many of the comments tonight have given indication about the responsive nature of EdTech, which it should be applauded. And so therefore, the question at hand is, how do we change the systems? What need to be changed in the systems? And how might that be reflected in the new design of EdTech, or the redesign of EdTech? So I just wanted to highlight that concept of autonomy juxtaposed with control.
Well, and I think there's, Alan's talking about how technology is evolving faster than we as humans can keep up with. And I think we see that, like, money continuing to go towards technology development, but we are seeing that development of human intelligence, like you mentioned, Shannon. I think Gilliam is talking about accountability pressures that put constraints on creativity and innovation. And I would also build on that and say those accountability pressures put control around the focus on human intelligence or human skills. Like it becomes more about covering content.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you said, Shannon, and I'll kind of frame it like this. If human intelligence was the focus and the benchmark or the core of EdTech, what are some things that we would eliminate immediately, right? It may not necessarily be a specific software or feature, but like, what are some concepts, some ideas, some things that we see very common in the EdTech space now that would not survive if it was truly centered around human intelligence? And I'm asking that to you here, but also everyone who's chiming in, feel free to answer that question as well.
So the question, Arvin, is what would EdTech look like if we were focused on human intelligence?
Yes, but specifically, what would not survive?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's funny you phrase it that way, because I have been thinking a lot about the future, not what we would eliminate, but what we would redesign. But now that you've posed the question that way, in terms of what would we eliminate, right now, in my experience, when I'm engaged with technology, and it may just be a reflection of self and not the general purpose of the technology, is I'm a consumer. And I would love to be the author of my learning.
Okay.
And so that's what occurs to me in terms of what would I eliminate. I think I'll pause there to hear what others would eliminate. And then I hope we segue into, so what does redesigned EdTech look like? Because I think that's what people are reaching for.
So I love that about not being the consumer, be the creator. And I loved your verbiage about being can you say it again, being the author of?
The author of your learning. Yeah.
Jen said she'd reclaim autonomy in the age of AI and stop normalizing offloading our thinking to chatbots. Kecia,
I thought of something else.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. Go ahead. No, you finish yours.
I'll finish my thought. And it's that if we could eliminate, or we know it's back to what we'd create, but it does hint at what we'd eliminate. I think the humans need to ask more and not have to answer as much. In other words, within an EdTech environment, to ask, not answer. And then I think the EdTech should help us illuminate and not just instruct us, again, because it takes us back to that consumer mode.
You are dropping bars. You are dropping so many bars right now. I love this. I'm gonna let you go, Kecia, and then I'll tag in my thought on that question.
Well, I think when we brought in adaptive technologies, and this kind of gets to Michelle's personalization. I mean, that was our first effort of seeing how we could create kind of these pathways to mastery for our learners. But it doesn't attend to all learners. Like, it's really hard in a technical system to attend to all types of learners and all types of people. And I work with a lot of companies. Microsoft just dropped a phenomenal product today, if you haven't checked it out. It's called Learn. And it is adaptive, and it is a consumer product, and it is for you to go in and what do you want to learn about? You ask a question and it provides information. It's powered by Copilot. It's amazing. And in the conversations that I've had with the developers of that, who are incredible people, they've been very thoughtful about the human aspect of the tool. And I think up until now, we might not have been as thoughtful, as aware of the human aspect. We might have been thinking about mastery. We might have been thinking about accountability. I wouldn't throw accountability out because I lived in an era where we didn't have accountability. And it's no good. Like, it's really no good. So I wouldn't throw it out. I've got a lot of improvements I might make to it, but I wouldn't throw it out. We need accountability in our systems for the fairness of the kids that are going through these systems. Because if the system doesn't have accountability, then the kids are left to chance, and that's not fair. So,
we've talked about this before, I think, Kecia, but I agree with you on accountability. I just don't think we have a balanced approach to accountability.
No, I agree with that. We don't. And I think we use too much data to inform our processes when there should be, even in research land where I live spend a lot of my time, we have qualitative and quantitative, right? So that's the balance. And we don't see that in accountability systems as much.
Right.
It's all quantitative data.
Right.
And so that is because it's driven by technology, right?
Well, right. And we've got Alan and Mark kind of basically saying about standardized education around standards-based requirements. And I'm going to try to say something that is like a half-baked thought. So this is dangerous because what I would get rid of in EdTech is like this for kids, like this facade, this pretend that they are like in control and that it is all about them. And really it's about that behind the scenes, checking the mastery, the adaptability. Do you guys know what I mean? Where it's like kids think they're in the driver's seat. They think they have voice and choice, but it's all just like fake puppet. Help me formulate this.
That's what I was saying I would get rid of. Is that
okay.
And they all kind of look the same too now, right? So log into anything and it's going to have that same pathway. You're going to have a prize. It's going to have a video. It's the same kind of product build.
And it
And
treats kids like they're actually doing something.
yeah,
They're
and that they've really mastered it. Then
Right.
you pull them away from that task and you give them a pencil and a paper and some, I'm a math and science person, and give them some cubes and bars, and they can't figure out base 10 for the life. So I'm like, but you did it over here.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Right.
transfer.
It doesn't
And
translate.
it doesn't transfer because it's not the same skill set.
Mm.
You're not using the same skills to go through that program as you are to think through a problem on paper. Same
Well,
thing with science and virtual labs.
Yeah.
I throw them away too.
Well, Jennifer Peters is weighing in around IXL, which I think is similar, but she's really talking about how that they're too rigid and not adaptable for struggling learners. Her daughter is dyslexic, and that tool was banned. And I think that's kind of it was listed as an exemption for her daughter. She didn't say banned. But I think that's a little bit what you're getting at there too, Kecia.
But I also think AI is the power to improve those products. And I think that those companies, that's what they're leaning into.
Yes.
I think they want to use AI to improve. The thing about technology is you are limited to the coding and the kind of where it is at the time. And you can have phenomenal ideas about how you want to do stuff. But if the technology, the hardware, the code, everything isn't where you need it to be, you can't make it happen.
Right.
You have to wait for that to be developed and catch up to your thinking. That's the hard thing about being an innovator, is your vision is ahead of where you can make it a reality right now.
Yeah.
Where you can execute.
Do you guys agree with Alan? Students are pawns in our system.
I was getting ready to highlight that and say, I don't know if is that a cancelable statement?
No, I don't think. I think it's a hot take. Like, I think that's a little bit of what I was getting at, a little bit like they're being played. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And I think that that's why it works for some and it doesn't work for others. Because I think if it was human-centered and human design, or that was at the center of it, we would see a lot more equity. That's not. And when I say that, I'm not talking about like the forced policied equity, like yuckiness. If I can just be honest with you, I'm just going to be,
You're talking about equitable outcomes.
Yeah.
Outcomes, equitable access, equitable.
Yes.
Right.
We would see students that we're currently seeing the system fail for. We would see the ability for both educators and administrators to have the freedom to create innovative solutions for those students that are currently slipping through the cracks. You guys know my story. I am one of the students that I slipped through every crack. Actually, I didn't slip through them. I jumped through them intentionally. And I think that a good thing that this conversation is surfacing is that when we're talking about control, we're talking about EdTech, there was a huge opportunity, and there still is, but there was a huge opportunity for it to be an equalizer. But I think the way that we have gone about it in the EdTech world as a whole has kind of had the opposite effect. And now it's not doing that. I want to go back a couple minutes to what Jen Artin said in the chat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name correct, but you said, ask lawyers using Gen AI tools for case law about accountability. That is hilarious. Thank you for sharing that. I don't want to ask them, but somebody probably will.
Well, I've spoken at some education law conferences on AI, and they are scared to death of it. And I can see why. But I also see great benefit to having it in a classroom for, I can't remember whose child has dyslexia, but developing 504 plans, it's a really great tool to for a teacher that doesn't understand a particular condition to search for what approach can I use for this child? I don't want to use the same thing every day. I've got to, so it's a really great tool there. But don't make the 504 plan with it.
Right. And don't put the kid's name in the chat. Just, I want to just touch real quick on, is Praveen. I hope I got your name right. What he said is that he thinks the hard part too is the average school district might have 5 different SaaS products or tools that are only 25% are using. So there's 1,000 and sometimes millions of dollars being spent on EdTech that is being underutilized. I just want to talk about that for a second, because that is so true. And here's what I did as a district administrator is then I said to my teachers, you must use IXL. You must use these tools. You must, like, we started to put like requirements in place because we were spending all kinds of money on these tools and they weren't getting used. So then we started to build them in. I mean, these are not proud moments, but we started to build them into that compliance, that control. And it was all about consumption. And it became about like, you got to get through IXL because that's going to get you your data to know where kids are so that you can do well on the Minnesota State Assessment. And, you know, it just like, it's this continual cycle of kind of perpetuating that industrial age model. And here's the thing that I am so scared of is that we are going to bring in all these AI tools that are, I'm not going to use any names, that are like these efficient, we can do lesson planning and all of this stuff for you really quickly. And we're going to just perpetuate the same cycle that we've been in of traditional education, that knowledge era focus. And so that's real concerning to me. I don't know if anyone else is concerned about that, but I just think we're going to make it super efficient to cement poor practices in our system.
100%. And I'll just say this really quickly. Answering that question about what needs to go, which is the original prompt like 10 minutes ago. What I was going to say is this thing that I've seen done over and over and over and over in EdTech for the last 15 years is digitizing something that is already broken. Taking, I don't know, some sort of like a presentation and putting it on an overhead light projector thing. I guys, I'm 34, so I wasn't, I didn't see those a lot, but then taking that and then, turning it into a PowerPoint or what, like this idea that it is somehow innovative and beneficial to just take something like that is clearly broken, that doesn't fit every person's need in the classroom, and just putting it behind some ones and some zeros and thinking that somehow equates to innovation and then that somehow is going to create a different result. In my opinion, what that needs to be replaced with is using technology to innovate the whole thing from the ground up. So let's not just digitize a workbook or a worksheet. Let's use AI to figure out how can we convey the same core lessons, the same core ideas in a completely different method. Period. That's what I'd say.
I'm going to jump in because I saw something that MJ, one of our audience members or community members, interjected around devaluing human connection. And there's this concept to put forward called the human counterforce, right? And the human counterforce says, if AI is going to do this, then what is the human counterforce to elevate the human, right? And then when you start looking at, okay, so if there's a human counterforce, meaning a human expectation for every AI function, if you will, within a system, how do we measure it? Because we've danced around that too, because human capacity is difficult to measure. It's difficult to make visible. It's difficult to measure, and it's difficult to cultivate. From back in the day, I'm a lot older than 34. I'm in the Kecia Club. By the way, go, that age group, that generation, I suppose, from being in front of Sesame Street, which is technology, to what we see today that students are engaging with. It didn't necessarily create human connection. It modeled it, but it didn't create it. It didn't cultivate it. So I just wanted to bring that to bear, this concept of human counterforce, and then maybe developing what we might call KPIs of humanity. What are those, and what do those look like, and how does EdTech support that outcome?
Can we unpack that just a little bit more? Because I feel like there's a lot of value in unpacking that in this conversation. Tell us more about this idea of a human counterforce. What exactly are the goals? Like what are we looking for? What are the outcomes? What is the home run, and what is like the failure criteria?
Okay. Okay, I feel like I'm taking a test, so I'm going to kind of look to the left where I have a few notes about that, because it's an evolving concept, right? And you know what? I'm showing up today wanting to be more human than less human and be authentic. So you're going to see me look to the left a little bit, because this is a concept that's growing, okay? Yeah. So when we say, what's the AI core function? Let's take data ingestion, for example. So what would be the human parallel of that? It would be perception and reflection. And so the design for the EdTech is, let's build interfaces that, and all of you are going to fall out of your chairs, so put your seatbelts on, because we're not in a society that values this, but that slows student down. Why? To observe, notice, and synthesize, not just consume. So an example would be a tool that helps you visualize your learning journeys. What do you see before what do you know, right? So that's one example. AI core function is data ingestion. Human parallel is perception and reflection. Let me offer one more to unpack it.
No, please, yes. Come on, yes.
Let's look at, well, we've got options of pattern recognition, prediction, optimization, automation, recommendation, computation. Let's do prediction. How about prediction? Yeah. Do we have a yes for prediction?
Yes.
So if the AI core function is prediction, and think about dashboards and things of that nature, then the human parallel might be, oh, well, we need to develop wisdom and foresight. Yes. So what does that look like in EdTech? We design dashboards. We don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but the new dashboards show consequences, not just trends. So for example, if I make this decision, and these things already exist, it's just they're not the pervasive tool that is out there. That would be the LMS, the SIS, the assessment platform, so forth and so on. So with prediction, the human piece being wisdom and foresight, we want to know how a decision, idea, or habit shapes future pathways, right? Because as humans, we're the only ones that can really project. AI can predict, but we can project.
Okay, Michelle. No, Michelle. Okay.
Go Gen Xers.
Okay, I just want to say this. That piece about predict. I'm going to use what I'm just talking about this. That piece about prediction and like forecasting. To me, that hits home, because when I think about the reasons why artificial intelligence can never replace a teacher is because there is something about intuition. There's something about human intuition that is so powerful when dealing in these spaces. And I have seen, my life has been shifted and changed for the better by teachers who didn't have all of the statistics or information, but they could look at me and they can tell and know and feel that something was wrong. There was no external information, right? No data, no nothing, but their inclination on interacting with me and figuring out what proper words to say or what moments that I needed to be able to learn in the classroom for that day. There's no data that can do that. And so I think you are so spot on with that. I'm using the word like intuition, but it can't be replaced. That is so powerful. I thank you. That's
and relationships. I mean, I did a keynote this week and talked about how the single most important thing, and this is over 25 years of research, single most important thing in a child's life for academic excellence is a teacher, a highly qualified, highly engaged teacher, not a I want to get out of the classroom tomorrow teacher, but I'm in here, I'm in it to win it, I'm in the field. I mean, I'm retired and still looking for jobs to teach. They don't want to hire you when you started teaching in 83, but what else? So it's okay. But you've got your heart in teaching because your core is to make the world a better place through the children who are going to make the world, right? Yeah. So the technology that we use is a tool to make the job easier, more efficient, and better. That's really what it's always been anticipated to do. Now, has industry taken over? Yes. Have systems taken over? Yes. Has accountability influenced it? Yes. But at the core, if we shed all that stuff away and want to know what really impacts a child's life, it's the relationship they have with their teacher and the ability that teacher has to deliver good, strong instruction with good, highly, to use the word we all like to use, um, high quality instructional materials. I mean, and those are going to be, they have been for years, decades, powered with AI. That is going to get better and better over time.
Yeah.
I think it's the design of that instruction and how the teacher chooses to use it. And should the teacher have the opportunity to choose how she uses it? In my system, when I was in the superintendent role, I allowed that for my teachers. I trusted I had great, high quality teachers. And if I didn't, they didn't get to work there anymore. So I targeted that, not the tools that they used, but making sure we had the best of the best in that district. And I think that's what's going to be the game changer. There's some phenomenal models out there for schooling. They're replicable, but they generate fear in some people. And so we steer away from them. But if we had more models that embraced student agency, the big picture model, the high tech high model are all phenomenal models that we've seen work over time. We've got solutions. They're just in small granules spread across our education ecosystem. What we have to do is have the bravery to bring them up and scale them.
Well, and I think something, Shannon, that I want to go back to that you said has really got me thinking about if that's where we're going, like everything you just described, Arvin, everything you built off of Kecia, and then how do we go back to making sure that we are able to really know that human-centered learning is happening, that human, I think it was Mark who said the human-oriented dashboard. Like, how do we start to measure these human intelligences and ensure that we are holding ourselves accountable in our classrooms to creating those conditions that build those uniquely human skills? And then how do we create metrics and a dashboard to be able to use that technology to see if we are serving students as we should be to be their very best selves? And I think in EdTech for me, like as I think about redesign and reimagine, yes, the efficiency is important to continue, but like let's do something that we haven't done before. Let's figure out how do we measure human intelligence in a way. I'll go even all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, Shannon, when you said like, now I can't even remember your exact words. What were they? That students are not creators, but
consumers, but the authors of their learners.
Authors of their learning. And so how do we create assessment tools and dashboards that show them being authors of their own learning and show that they're building human intelligence? I think that's what's ahead of us.
Yeah. I think that's the profound question, right? And I think it's, back in the day, Michelle, when you asked us as board members to do our little quick video on at the very beginning of this movement, and it's been quite some time now, I really did some reflection. I think it's important the questions we ask. So when we've talked about human counterforce, and if we talk about the KPIs of humanity, I think we start with asking questions. So everyone in this, in the four squares and then others in the space have talked about agency. So how would we answer the question with a dashboard or some other mechanism? If we can expand beyond what we know and what exists today, can learners navigate ambiguity and self-direct? So I think that's measurable. It's not something we've looked at. If we look at, I mentioned the importance of authenticity because I'm using ChatGPT and other large language models more and more to simply respond to things that I should just be able to whip out myself. So
Yeah.
I tell people I'm developing a lazy eye, which means a lazy AI. I'm becoming that person, and it seems like it's chipping away at my authenticity, or is it amplifying it? Because I get to choose what I send forward. But authenticity, do they express original insight and ethical reasoning?
Well, and what we're hearing in the chat right now is some ideas around like having that human intelligence framework. How do we create the conditions for portfolio-based learning, for skill-based learning? And with that comes skill-based measurement, like really starting to leverage the technology and the tools at our fingertips to create learning experiences that look distinctly different and measure something different, I think is key as we think about redesigning and rebuilding for the intelligence age.
I totally agree. One of the things that just came to my mind as we were talking about data ingestion and kind of synthesizing things. Back in the day, we used to do sessions on creativity and how to tap into your creative genius and whatnot. And I just remember this. I can't remember the exact quote, but essentially, it kind of made this illustration of there is a point you can come to where you become really great at connecting the dots, where you learn and you train and your brain starts to just naturally see the connections between things. And so whenever you go to recall information or you go to perform on a test, your speed and the effectiveness of you being able to answer certain questions, specifically in education, directly correlate to your ability to connect dots from things you learned 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and connect them to new things or connect them to things that you learned were connected. But creativity kind of requires a different skill. Oftentimes creativity requires you to break the connections so you can see new ones that you weren't taught. It requires you to kind of step outside of what you have learned, what was forced into your head to like dissect that constellation of the Big Dipper so that you can then see another constellation that might be bigger or smaller or further out. And a concept of the human counterforce is just ringing in my brain right now that I cannot imagine what creativity would look like in schools, what it will look like if we do not get the usage of AI and EdTech done properly. Like I cannot see it surviving at all. The idea of connecting new dots and being able to, I don't know. It's good. This is good, but it's also like, man, how do we get there?
Well, I think we also need to think about, and I always have to bring this up because my daughter's neurodivergent, and I think we all have, right, people who we know with neurodivergence, and 1 in 5 children are. The most creative children in a classroom can tend to be neurodivergent. And what do they have happen to them in a classroom? Yeah. Sometimes, not all times, not anybody on this chat, but in some classrooms, they're set aside, they're made to feel less than or not, not worthy, and that creativity or the way that they think is wrong.
Yeah. Right. So it's like the deficit rather than identifying
and a power. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a strength and a superpower. And like that's what's missing is the ability for us to see that goodness and that brilliance in students.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. I think we are going to go to routine. There you go. This is a time in the podcast where we talk about unavoidable truths that we have either learned, discovered, or discussed within this conversation today. So if you're watching, listening online, we have like 19,000 people commenting and responding right now. So we might not have time to read all of them. But at this point, let's all start to kind of articulate what are some unavoidable truths that we have discovered, discussed, or kind of talked about during this session. I've got some in my head that I think is, if I go first, it's going to come out super jumbled. So if anyone else wants to go first, feel free while I collect my thoughts into a statement that's coherent.
Shannon, Kecia, you got clarity yet on what surfaced from the conversation for you?
I have so much they're fighting to get out. Mm-hmm. The one thought.
Yeah, I feel like we just started the conversation. I don't know how we're at 54 minutes right now. We need to like do like a follow-up for this at some point in time.
Yeah, it definitely is a deep conversation. And the community that has been contributing, I just thank you all, because I think that has been fuel. There's so many things we could come back to and dissect and really dig into. I think for me, the unavoidable truth that I come to is that we need to hold ourselves accountable to something different in education. And I echo what you said, Kecia, like accountability is important. It ensures that there's equity across what all students experience. And we want that. And at the same time, I think there's power right now in being able to use our EdTech tools differently, to be focused more on that creation versus consumption, to think about how do we measure skills differently? How do we unlock some human potential that kids are either seen as a deficit for them, and help them see their strengths, their assets, their gifts that they bring from that human lens? Because as we look to this intelligence age, that is going to be our biggest commodity, is what are the human intelligences that we bring? And so how can we take and think differently about EdTech tools to kind of tap into that, to unlock that in students? So that's what I'm thinking about. We're seeing some other unavoidable truths, individualizing EdTech for all. Cynthia didn't even drop the personalized learning piece. She said individualizing. So I kind of want to explore that with her. Jen says, I prompt, therefore I am. Just because you're willed a piece into existence doesn't make you a writer. It takes more than a prompt. That's a good unavoidable truth.
That's a good one.
I want a sticker, billboard. I want a bumper sticker for that.
Yeah, we kind of call that AI slop, at least, right?
Yeah.
Like, the other day was like, all I'm doing is reading other people's AI outputs all day long.
Like, yeah.
What
I
else?
want to point out, Jen also said, and Jen, you've been popping off on this chat. Thank you so much. We probably need to pull her on video one of these days.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pull out what she said. She said, human creativity. We may need to unplug sometimes. Teachers I work with have noticed a lot of bland sameness in their students' work, a kind of convergence of thought brought on by misuse of AI. That I think summarizes a lot of what you just said. My unavoidable truth that I have kind of I'm still trying to articulate is, when I think about an unavoidable truth, I think of something that is true right now, that many people either don't see or are trying not to see, or are trying to avoid it. There is an intentional component to trying to hide this thing, right? And so for me, the unavoidable truth that I have come to in this conversation is there is a lot of value in searching for things that are hidden. When you were talking about this human counterforce, I think of this idea of we're building all of these things that AI does really well. And hidden inside of it is actually our key to still be successful as well. And it's like you had to go and see that AI is good at predicting, right? In order for us to then find the opposite of that, where we should start like developing ourselves, or not developing, leaning into. And so for me, I'm wondering how many other EdTech things that we have designed and built and spent millions of dollars on, and hundreds of thousands of brilliant people's time and thinking on, where there are hidden human skills, hidden human potential, hidden human excellence that we can find by looking at what AI is doing and doing the opposite. That's my unavoidable truth.
That's a mic drop. You're dropping some bars.
Yeah.
How's that? You dropping the bars?
Good job, Michelle. You used it correctly. I love it.
No, I mean, I'm in all sincerity, like, for you to connect the dots like that, Arvin, is pretty impressive in this conversation. I mean, that's brilliance. Like,
y'all made it easy.
But let's hear from you and I could go all night. Let's hear from Shannon and Kecia. What are your unavoidables?
I'll say mine, because Shannon is a better orator than I am. So I'll say mine and I'll let her close, because she will say it beautifully. But I think the unavoidable truth for me is that AI has been and will continue to be a component of EdTech. And in the next 10 years, it will be more sophisticated than it has ever been.
Yeah.
And it will be our job to make sure that there is great intention behind the use of it and the integration of it in the tools that we use. And we do that by purchasing. So if it's crap, don't purchase it.
Yeah.
If it's good, high quality, and you see and you're working with a company that you know will make sure in 10 years you still got good stuff, then go with it. But be very careful, because there's a lot of snake oil out there right now. And that's my
Unavoidable truth.
unavoidable truth for the
I
next.
want a T-shirt that says that, and then maybe people will approach me and I can give them a piece of my mind.
You want a T-shirt that says unavoidable truth?
Do. Yeah, I'm pretty subdued most of the time, but y'all got me all riled up. So my unavoidable truth is that we need a purpose shift. But we've all said that, and so we have spent a lot of time. This is going to sound like what Arvin said. So yes, when there's good ideas, other humans should take and run with it. So we've been spending a lot of time optimizing learning delivery, right? So how do we evolve to our EdTech cultivating the human potential? And Michelle, we didn't get to talk about your personalization, but we did kind of hint at it, and it was a thread throughout. And so the other thing would be, right now, we do have, back to my original comment about a mechanical design in terms of the technology. So we have personalization, but it's by algorithm. And to come full circle about being the author of your own learning, how do we design EdTech for self-authorship by design, so that kids who are going into the system actually are the authors of their learning?
Love that.
Love it.
We got a couple other unavoidable truths just to highlight. One is from Lisa Walker: to use AI responsibly. I'm just going to drop it. We didn't even talk about AI literacy. That was on our list of topics, Arvin. And Jen again is talking about AI is absolutely becoming more of a presence. OpenAI just coupled with a major retailer. Imagine that your chatbot is now your personal shopper. That kind of goes hand in hand with what Lisa says: use AI responsibly.
Yeah.
On that last piece, Arvin, I got to say, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm so talkative. I really am quite an introvert. I'm on a podcast, so I have to talk. That's what you got me come. Is I think in this day and age, we talk about intelligence, or you'll hear older generation, like I think of my grandparents, it's like, oh, intelligence is a scarce commodity. It's in such short supply. And I would argue that what we really are experiencing, to the points that you just made, is that judgment is going to be the scarce commodity, because of where we are with AI.
Yeah, because we no longer need it, or at least many individuals who are constantly using AI chatbots don't have the ability to exercise those muscles because they don't need to anymore. They just toss it in chat.
I need some judgment, some good judgment.
Yeah, I love it. We have a couple more comments coming in. We'll leave them there. Jen, if you can just pop them up as we are closing out really quick. Can you all share with our audience how they can follow you guys and keep up with you and learn more about some of the things that you're saying and doing? Let's start with you, Shannon.
Okay, well, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me, Shannon Terry 915. And I would say LinkedIn. I'm very active in the human intelligence movement. We've got new members. If you're considering joining, we do new member meetings monthly, and then we have member mingles and other professional learning opportunities. So I'll see you in the Slack channel once you join Human Intelligence, if you haven't already.
Love it. Kecia?
I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Kecia Ray and Instagram as Dr. EdTech. Oh.
That makes you.
That tells you how old I am.
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys. Jenna is also tossing those links in the chat, so make sure to check those out there. For all of you guys who are looking forward to the next episodes, we are on Spotify, LinkedIn Live, we are on YouTube, and we also have a TikTok now. So you're going to see Michelle doing some TikTok dances. If I have anything to say about it, she will be on there doing the Dougie or doing the thing where it's like that. So make sure to check us out on TikTok as well. Now, Michelle, do you want to talk about anything else we got going on in the next couple of weeks?
Well, just a little bit about what's next. I want to first give a shout out to Jenna, our producer of the podcast. She makes the magic happen. So thank you. And one thing I wanted to point out, Mark had mentioned that we should build a human intelligence framework. And that is exactly where we are headed. October 30th is our next time that we'll be together. Next week, we're off. The week following October 30th, join us for a conversation with Chris Foltz. He is the Director of Strategic Innovation for the Human Intelligence Movement. He is the mastermind behind so many things happening, and it's an opportunity for you to get to meet him and talk about how are we redesigning and rebuilding innovation. We're also going to be sharing some of the upcoming things happening with the Human Intelligence Movement, where we're going, what we're going to be building. You all, we are moving to action and we're going to make some things happen. So I see all of you in this chat today. I'll be following up, bringing you in and helping us build those frameworks, build those tools, keep that human center at the focus of everything we're doing. So join us on October 30th with Chris. So that's all I've got, Arvin.
Love it. Love it. I am going to go find a way to create a Human Counterforce t-shirt that has like its own, like, I think I want a onesie. I want, or not like a, okay, that was weird. Like a power ranger.
Weird. I think you meant like a jumpsuit.
Yeah. Like
you meant not, I know his baby wears a onesie, but I do not want to see you in a onesie.
You can tell I have a 2-year-old right now. Not a onesie. I want like a Power Ranger suit with like Human Counterforce and like little swords and stuff. That's what I'm going to be doing before the next episode. Thank you guys so much for hopping in here. We will see you all next week. Deuces.